Hi everyone, welcome to Fridays with Phil. Today it's part 2 of Mind Not Diseased, and we're covering post-traumatic growth. Here's psychologist Tarnya Davis.
There was a ferry disaster in the 80s, and the psychologist investigated how the people that survived that were coping as a part of that investigation, he just asked people, is there anything better in your life for having lived through this terrible thing? And a lot of people said, well, it's not like I wanted that to happen, but this is better and that's better. And one of the things that people talk about, so he coined that, instead of post-traumatic stress disorder, he coined it post-traumatic growth, and interviewed people all around the world with terminal illnesses or people that had survived tragic accidents or near drownings, that kind of thing. And that one of the three things that were better in their lives for having lived through that was, I know who was there for me. So it's through the tough times that we get to learn who's there for us. And often people will say, it's not the people I expected. And I'm sure you've probably all experienced that so far, that the best friends that you had now don't contact you because they don't know what to say or how to manage it. But it's the neighbour that you didn't have much to do with, or someone from work that now is there for you. And so at one level, this really difficult time in your life brings forward the people that do have the capacity to be able to sit with your pain or know how to deal with those situations. When you're talking about sharing, and that's one thing Phil's done so well, is raising awareness. But for our community to understand that these diseases impact upon people and how they impact, and to raise awareness is fantastic. And I guess so that's around sharing ideas around the diseases themselves and raising awareness. And you're not asking for sympathy, you're just being honest and open with people. And I guess for us to be compassionate with people who hear that news and may not know quite what to say or how to manage that. And I guess the other side of that is you're sharing about the diagnosis. I'm a real advocate for people sharing about their emotional experience as well, the psychological impact of the physical disease upon you. If we're talking about mental health, what we do know about severe mental health, severely impacting mental health, like anxiety and depression and post-traumatic stress disorder, men are more likely to take their lives than women as a result of mental health. And when all around the world we've looked at the reasons behind that, and we're really bad at predicting why that might be, but the consistent story behind it is when people feel like they've let other people down. That's what people that have survived a suicide attempt and has said was the reason behind it, feeling like they let other people down. And so if we can start that culture of there's nothing to be ashamed about being vulnerable, there's nothing to be ashamed about having an emotion, and it's okay to share and it's okay to reach out to other people like Phil has, then I think we start to change that situation where people feel like they need to deal with it all on their own. They need to have the answers all the time.
I think if I can wrap that question up and then we'll move on to another one. I think for me, there were two levels. There was what Tarnya was talking about, my ability to expose the disease generally to a total population and bring awareness. But then when it came to my inner emotional dilemmas with the disease and journey with the disease, I become selective about who I share those things with. I wouldn't, if someone asked me in the street, hey, Phil, what's wrong with you? I'd say I've got motor neuron disease, but I wouldn't say, hey, I'm suffering from guilt and I'm suffering from a loss of self-worth and significance. I wouldn't get into those details with them. but I certainly would with people who I trusted those emotions to. And like someone professionally that can then speak back to me areas of influence that can bring about growth through those areas. Because I think it's very real. I think what Tarnya is talking about, it is very real. We do feel like we've let people down, our family, our loved ones, and those around about us, and we have to then navigate our way through those feelings of guilt and other things that we carry and other emotions that we carry. So what about someone else? Is there another question out there that?
Yeah, thanks, Phil and Tanya. Appreciate the insights that you can share. I've been recently diagnosed, and I want to pick up on that point about family and this sense that one might have of letting people down. And at this stage, I feel that I need to be the support to my family rather than the other way around. And I'm trying to figure out how best I can do that. How do I support my two boys who are terribly upset about the news? How can I be a better support to them? How can I be a better support to my wife, who now sees herself, probably with some anxiety and fear, sees herself as being the ongoing supporter of me? So in spite of what I'm going through, and it gives me a sense of purpose too, how can I be a better support to my family? Appreciate any comments you might have on that.
That's awesome, Peter. Thanks for opening up. Thanks, Tanya.
Phil, did you want to talk about your lived experience of that, and then I can throw in any ideas that I might have?
Yeah, I think it's a very real emotion that you're feeling, Peter, especially being recently diagnosed. I think there is a huge weight on the person being diagnosed to help those around them travel through this as best as possible. And I really do think, Peter, you will go through self-change and self-awareness as you process what's happening to you as a person. And when you do that, I think as you allow yourself to go through those self-growth processes, there's the self-awareness of the pain that you feel, you will then be a stronger influence for those around you who are still dealing with the pain that they carry for what's happening to you. And they do look to you for strength. I think my two daughters were looking at the way I navigated this, and the way I navigated it would be of strength to them. And then they see you grow through it. They see you go through the anger stage, the disappointment, the unbelief, all of those emotions that you go through. They see you coming through that. And when they see you coming through it, it does encourage them. It does give them strength. But I think they need to see you for me, they needed to see me be real about it, not pretend it wasn't happening, not pretend I am okay, but say, hey, look, I'm dealing with this myself, and we can all get through this together, but know that I'm getting help, and the help that I get will help you as well. I don't think we can comfort anyone unless we've been comforted. We can't encourage anyone unless we've been encouraged. And we can't strengthen anyone unless we find strength in ourselves. So it's what this is about today, is about you getting the self-help. And I think when you focus on yourself, the overflow will be helping others around about you. And that better person is someone that our loved ones will remember. And they will remember us for the change that we went through during this time. And it wasn't a waste, but it actually, we turned what was a negative into something that created great memories and great people around us.
I get frustrated with not being able to do all those things that were my jobs, when I'm very conscious that every day, in effect, she's getting more chores or more responsibilities directly related to me, never mind things I can't do around the house. So I have a frustration at me and a frustration at her. In that she's stopping me doing something I could still do.
I guess there's two important parts that I think are really important, the things that you can do. So we can't change the situation that you're in. The diagnosis is the diagnosis, and the outcome, as Phil says, is a tragic terminal one. And there's very little that you can do, although there are some things, you can to work towards, being an early adapter and adjusting your lives accordingly to influence that. But the thing that you can do most in the face of life events that you can't control is choose who you will be next. Choose what kind of person do I want to be? What are my values? What's important to me? How do I want to live this life that I still have? And that's the part that you can choose. And that's the part that this moment brings to you, the opportunity to really think about what's important to you. And that's one of the other factors that study I talked to you about before, that post-traumatic growth. The first one is I learn what I'm capable of through the really difficult times. Second is I know who's there for me. And the third factor is I know what's important. I know what I really value, and I'm going to make sure that I bring that into my life. I'm going to make sure every day I live according to my values. And I think one of the best ways that we can do that is to make sure you still connect, to make sure you still feel you're contributing value to the relationships that you have. I mean, Andrew, I'm sure beyond putting the garbage out, that you contribute value to your family. And the ways that you can do that is to stay as psychologically well as you can. It's the stereotype, you've got to put your own mask on in the plane in order to be able to take care of others around you. And like Phil was saying, that's one of the choices that he made, to be able to work through the impact of living with the disease so that he could be able to be available to be the support.
I hope you really enjoyed that today. If you're watching on YouTube, why not subscribe to my YouTube channel and leave a comment if you like as well. Peace and love to you all. Bye.